Welcome to the Workday HR and Payroll for Fiscal Staff course. In this module, we'll be taking a closer look at the period activity pay workflow, your role as a cost center manager or as a member of the RRC in the flow, and we will be showing a brief demonstration of the review and approval step in Workday. There are many policies that are important to review and understand related to compensation. There are also policies that have been updated due to changes with the enterprise project. These can also be found on the policy website through Policies Under Review and New and Revised Policies. Some of the compensation policies include additional compensation involving work within the university, faculty compensation, reward and recognition, salary administration and classification, scheduling work and overtime compensation. Next, we are going to talk about period activity pay and the process for an employee to receive it. Period activity pay is a new process and way of payment for Ohio State. You should remember hearing this term from earlier. The period activity pay business process is for the assignment and management of certain types of employees' period activities and the related compensation with instructions for payment through Workday Payroll. Period activity pay enables you to pay certain types of employees for fixed-term activities. It is used for equal payments over a specified period of time. When assigning a worker period activity pay, only specific activities can be chosen. Pay amount, date ranges, and costing will also need to be assigned. Period activity pay may be assigned throughout the life cycle of a worker. Period activity pay should be reassigned each semester for each period activity pay instance for the individuals. The only exception to this is for fellowships, which can be assigned for an entire year. Period activity pay is applicable for a select group of individuals: graduate associates and fellowships, lecturers on a semester-to-semester contract, and 9-month faculty for off-duty pay. Off-duty pay is a payment for 9-month faculty who perform work during their off-duty periods. To see if an individual worker has assigned period activity pay, you can look at the compensation section of the worker profile. If applicable, the worker will have a current activity pay tab that has activity and payment details on their period activity pay. If the user has had period activity pay assigned in the past, there will also be a tab at the top labeled Historical Activity Pay that lists the past occurrences of a user's period activity pay. There are 5 key roles involved in the period activity pay process. 1. Talent Acquisition Coordinator. 2. Manager or Manager Liaison. 3. Cost Center Manager or RRC. 4. HR Consultant. 5. Employees. The Talent Acquisition Coordinator will be responsible for adding period activity pay throughout the hire, change job, and add job business processes. Managers or manager liaisons will initiate the request for period activity pay for ad hoc reasons. Because period activity pay needs to be added every semester for most populations, ad hoc period activity pay requests will likely be the most common. Even if the request is being submitted by the Talent Acquisition Coordinator through the hire, change job, or add job process, the manager will need to understand what period activity pay is and why it needs to be added to their individual, as they are responsible for it in the future. The HRC will review and approve the requests, as well as generate the period activity pay documents that the employee will have to acknowledge. The HRCs will also need to support managers if their period activity pay requests need to be updated or additional information is required. As the Cost Center Manager or RRC, you will also be approving period activity pay requests, which will include the costing allocation. There are 4 processes and paths that an employee may receive period activity pay through: hire, add job, change job, or ad hoc. Overview of the processes. You should remember the hire, add job, and change job processes from earlier. Period activity pay will be added by the Talent Acquisition Coordinator in the hire process. Ad hoc requests are the process used for managers to request period activity pay when needed. These will likely be the most common. Managers would use this type of request prior to the beginning of a semester to add their employees' period activity pay. This may be used to add the employee's period activity pay every semester after they are hired into their role. Ad hoc processes should not be thought of as random uses of adding period activity pay. The ad hoc process should be considered the normal process the manager will use to add period activity pay for their employee prior to the start of the semester, year for fellowships, or off-cycle months for off-duty pay individuals. Talent acquisition coordinators or managers will be the main individuals responsible for initiating the request for period activity pay. However, the HRC may also initiate period activity pay for graduate associates after hire. Next, we are going to go through the process flow for period activity pay, showing who initiates these processes, as well as the steps associated with period activity pay. As previously discussed, there are 4 processes in which an individual can be assigned period activity pay: new hire, add job, change job, or ad hoc. As a CCM or RRC member, you will approve all period activity pay. If any changes need to be made, you will send it back to the initiator. Based on the processes mentioned that may create a period activity pay request, there are 2 ways that the request can come to HR consultants for approval. 1, through the TA coordinator in the new hire, change job, and add job processes. 2, through the manager in an ad hoc request in Workday. The steps for period activity pay after initiation are as follows. 1, HR consultants will approve the request. 2, the college or business unit cost center manager or RRC in the medical center will approve the period activity pay. 3, if applicable, HR consultants will generate the period activity pay documents. These will only apply for graduate associates and semester-to-semester based lecturers. These will not be generated for fellowships and off-duty pay lecturers. 4, the employee will acknowledge the period activity pay documents. Period activity pay will have to be reapplied to a worker every semester. There are 2 exceptions for this. Fellowships. For fellowships, the manager or talent acquisition coordinator can add a full year of period activity pay. However, this is the only time a full year is applicable and available. Off-duty pay. This will only need to be added during the applicable off-duty months. Managers will be responsible for re-adding the period activity pay when needed each semester. As mentioned before in the overview of a role as a reviewer and/or approver, it is important to ensure accuracy in your reviews and approvals of all information, due to your responsibility to Ohio State and the populations that you serve. I want to call out some important information for period activity pay reviews. On the request, you will see certain items: period pay amount, start date and end date. This is the period of time for which the person is being paid for. Costing. Every period activity pay assignment request should have a costing. You should verify that it is all correct and that funding is associated correctly. It will be extremely important to review costing. Assigned unit rate. This is the factor of payment if they are paid per class. For example, a lecturer may be paid $5,000 per class for 3 classes, totaling $15,000. This is more critical for lecturers. You should ensure that the total amount will be correct and equal to the assignment total. Payment start date and payment end date. This is the period of time for which the payments will be made. Dates do not have to be the start and end date of a pay period. Let's take a look at an example. A lecturer on a semester-to-semester contract is being hired into your college or unit. They have already gone through the application and offer process, and their hire into the university is now being finalized. I am currently logged in as Raymond Studer, a cost center manager. I'm going to navigate to the inbox to find the period activity pay request for review. First, I will review who the request is for. Then I will scroll down to the Details to Review section. First, I will review the effective date. This will generally be equal to the start date of the applicable semester if an employee's period activity pay is added prior to the semester's start. If an employee is hired with period activity pay midway through the semester, the effective date should be equal to their start date. Effective dates can only be the current date or a future date. They cannot be retroactive. Here, I will also confirm the academic period is correct. This should be equal to the upcoming semester or school year for fellowships. Then, I will review the reason. This should be equal to the reason the individual is receiving the period activity pay. Next, I will take a look at the assignments table. I'm going to click the double arrow in the right-hand corner to enlarge the view. First, I will review the activity and ensure that it's correct with the individual's position. Then, I will review the activity dates. First, the start date. This should align with the first day of the semester. For fellowships, this would be the first day of the school year. Next, the end date. This should align with the last day of the semester. For fellowships, this would be the last day of the school year, not one semester. Next, I'll take a look at the units. These are used for lecturers who are paid per class taught. This individual lecturer will be teaching 5 courses at $5,000 per course. The number of courses can be validated under quantity. As you can see here, it's listed as 5. The assigned unit rate is $5,000 per course. For a grad associate, fellowship, or off-duty pay, this value would be the total pay amount for the entire semester. Next, I will scroll over to the compensation section. Here, I will ensure that the compensation is correct and matches the quantity times the assigned unit rate. For a grad associate, fellowship, or off-duty pay, this value would equal the assigned unit rate. I'm now going to click into Costing Overrides. There should always be costing associated with the period activity pay request. Incorrect costing will have important downstream HR and payroll impacts. First, I will review and confirm the cost center. The cost center will default based on the supervisory organization the job requisition is assigned to, but can be changed if necessary. Next, I will review and confirm the fund. Then, I will review and confirm any additional work tags. These should include balancing unit and function. Ensure that they align with the cost center and fund. It is also important to ensure that the total percentage equals 100. I will now navigate back to the original request by clicking Done. This completes the review of the period activity pay request. I will select Approve for this request. This concludes the demonstration. Again, thank you so much for attending the session today. Please reach out with any questions or concerns that you may have about the materials we've covered.